All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are hearing this. Boy, do we have a treat for you. So, Merrill Winston, he posted on Facebook. That's kind of where this all originated. But yeah, we talk about what it really means to be unethical and professional a bit, but also just the state of how people in our field can try to just punish or suppress your behavior. And it's quite ridiculous, actually. So I hope you enjoy. And here we go. Buckle up. Let's roll that intro.
But like, I just want to say this to you, Merrill. I've been a Merrill Winston fanboy for like about 4.5 years now. I did I don't know if you remember this. You came to Columbus, Ohio, and did a PCM trainer training.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in your class. You probably don't remember.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. But yeah, it was pretty funny because I don't remember what I did, but you kind of told me to shut the fuck up. And I was like, actually.
But I didn't say that.
It was definitely a subtle jab, but it was like well placed. And then you were, I don't know, I saw you had a Steam account or something. We started talking games, and I was like, okay, it's like a normal person. So.
Yeah, normal person.
Okay.
Yeah, here, are you recording, Dimitri?
I am, yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, we're officially going.
Okay. All right, great. So, just, for the audience, just a little bit of background. I'm a director of program development for PCMA. We do crisis management training. So we train instructors in our system. So I train not exclusively, but a lot of behavior analysts as instructors in our crisis management system. I do a lot of expert witnessing for cases in restraint that have gone bad, sometimes for IEP meetings or due process, things like that. So we do a lot of that training, and I also do some consultation and, of course, presentations. So that's a little bit about the company and what I currently do with it. This thing was just kind of came up, actually, I think from just a post I did about, just as a joke, about professionalism and how I'm known for kind of, and just so everybody knows who doesn't know me, I'm not up there like Lenny Brucing it when I do a presentation. I'm not just like dropping the F-bomb like left and right. In fact, usually I by the way, because Matt on Matt's, I couldn't curse because it'll give him an explicit rating. Does it matter?
Do whatever you want.
Oh, dude, yeah, we're so I know Matt really well. I told you I reached out. I like to make sure I'm not stepping on his toes, anyways. But yeah, we are the explicit rating. That is part of our angle. You go to fucking town, man.
Well, and actually, that was kind of like where it came from, and it kind of pissed me off because I was thinking, well, the comment started with, I gave this presentation. It's like, Dr. Winston was very unprofessional because he used curse words. And first thing I'm thinking is like, well, God, lighten the fuck up, lady. You work with kids that like curse at you all day long, and I'm not even cursing at you, not yet. And so that was kind of like where it came from. And I was like, well, if you look up professional in the dictionary, it's got nothing to do with your manners. Professional is it's you do at a professional level. And even when you look up unprofessional, it's just the generic definition is not meeting whatever the standard is for professional for whatever your discipline is. And the thing is, these things are not never really stated. I mean, she may as well just said like, I don't like it when people curse, because really that's all you're saying. And when I posted that, a bunch of people, it like hit a nerve. So a bunch of people started posting, oh my God, somebody said that about me, and somebody said it about my purple hair, and somebody said it about my tattoos. And I was like, oh shit, here it comes. And it was just like all this stuff. And, I had talked about it with Karen Wagner, and who, does a lot of work in Florida and with FABA, and is just really awesome.
Yeah.
And Karen called it ethical bullying. So like, except instead of professionalism, they use the word ethical. And so, and this is a thing for sure. And it's not that, the idea is not that, it's not that ethics are bad. It's just that people twist it the way that they want to. And although this was, and you guys chime in with whatever you want, but even though it was going to be about professionalism in general, what it's really about, I like to call it the Jedi mind trick stimulus equivalence bullshit. And what they do is people have a label, they equate it with something, and then they just slap it on there. And so the way it works is, I know that, you're dressing a way that I don't like, or your hair color is a way I personally don't approve of. I know I can't just simply say, hey man, your hair color is purple. I think it looks weird. You should change it, because then you're going to have a problem. But if I put it under the rubric of unprofessional, people are like, damn, I don't want to be unprofessional. Oh, well, that's unprofessional. We do this bullshit with 4-year-olds, okay? You're going to put your toys away? No. Wait a second. Aren't you a big boy? Big boys put their toys away. No, mommy, I'm a big boy. Oh, you are a big boy, so you're going to put your toys away. That's the same fucking shit. It's the same shit. The good news, as Jabba the Hutt told us, is that the Jedi mind trick only works on the weak-minded.
I love Dude, I think it's about control too, Merrill. I think it's about control. Like, yes. To me, because I feel that being a large, boisterous person, I've been called imposing. Like, they use there's these certain types of, and it's like, well, what did I do to move on you? Like, did I threaten you? No, it's just the way that you sit. I'm like, okay.
It is your physicality.
Your brow is heavy. Like, what the fuck? What do you want me to do about that? Like, call my dad. I got a big Greek unibrow. Like, get over
it. Like in the anthropological sense, like a medial forebrow bundle.
Right. Yeah. Like, I can't help that. I look like a Cro-Mag.
Yeah, like Australopithecus or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I would get that in training sometimes. Just like, you're making me nervous. And I'm like, you are volunteering to be nervous.
Exactly.
I'm not requiring it.
Yeah.
But that goes over really well.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, though, a lot of that is rooted in, we dived right in fast, but a lot of it seems to be very much rooted in the rejection of personal responsibility in specific social interactions. Like, you don't want to just own your side of the equation, and it's everybody else's fault that you feel a certain way, or you do a certain thing, or you're reacting a particular fashion. And I find it so disingenuous. That's where I get offended by it. I get offended by the disingenuousness of it. Like, it's just not real.
So like they're like faux disdain or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah. It's virtue signaling is what it is. It's
in the name of professionalism.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. Using virtue and morality as a weapon, and it makes me kind of sick to my stomach.
Yeah, and I think that's why Karen called it ethical bullying, and it's just like, well, I can say, just as an example, like, I don't use DROs. I find that they're just, for what I do, they were useful once, and it's not that they're bad. I just find there's always better things than fucking DRO. But they're not illegal. You're not a bad person if you use them. It's just Merrill doesn't prefer them. I come up with all kinds of other things that I like to use. Sure. It doesn't mean that it's bad. But if I then say, let's say that I prefer not to use it because I believe there's a lot of better options. If I say to the person, using a DRO, well, that's some old school shit. That's unethical. There's much better things out there that you should be using. That's a different story.
Well, you run into it probably a lot because of your crisis background.
Yeah, I get into a lot of it with as far as not unprofessional, but the word they'll use is inhumane. Yeah. And so what they'll throw it's the same shit though. So what they'll do is they'll like, I don't actually say this in these meetings that I'm in because you can't, but they'll say stuff like, well, just holding somebody down when they don't know, they have a disability, they don't know what they did wrong. Okay. And you're holding them down. That is just barbaric and inhumane. And I'm thinking, okay, dude, you want to know what inhumane is? Why don't you go to any other country in the world and see what they do with people with disabilities when they're aggressive. Yeah, and then come back and have a conversation with me about holding people on a soft foam mat without pain until they calm down by people that care about them. That now you talk to me about how that is inhumane compared to, I don't know, what happens to any other human on the planet when they're aggressive.
Yeah, in Greece, there was an article 3 or 4 years ago in the BBC and some other places about how they were just fucking barring them up. And they were like, no, it's okay because we painted them bright colors and it looks really freaking cool. And it feels great. Like, there was arguments for that, yeah. And what it was is the economic situation was making it really hard. No one was staying in that job. Like, the turnover rates were obscene, but it was leading to 50, 60, 70, 100, 200 sort of to 1 ratios. And they were just doing the best they could to be able to keep people safe. And that was the form of it. But I'll link that in the notes.
So let's backtrack here a little bit. So we've been talking about, like, as far as the crisis intervention thing goes, I feel like, again, that also falls in line with a lot of the PBISers, if you're working in schools and that kind of thing, who are kind of promoting, I don't want to say, actually, I'm going to say it, a completely false idea of what behavior analysis is in comparison to what positive behavior supports are, and a disingenuous idea of what the different types of contingencies that are out there that control our behavior and the different tools that we have at our disposal, like the complete rejection of extinction, the complete rejection of punishment on spec, not as least to most intrusive type things.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with that. I think that's one of those things where somebody just decided that persons with disabilities, they can't have the same experience as the rest of us with life. That is, they're supposed to experience a life with zero adversity. It's, and that it must be perfect and everything can be done correctly, and that it is shored up by things that demonstrate the ineffective use of punishment when what was being used was not technically a punisher. Maybe it was a pisser offer, which is one of the things that, well, that's what I call it. There are many stimuli that have sufficient aversive properties to cause you to become physiologically aroused, but the qualities they have are not such that they will function as a punisher for the behavior that preceded it. It doesn't mean that it's not annoying as fuck. So that's what I call them, as pisser offers. So like if you have a response cost for a child, all right, a response cost for a well-behaved child with good self-control, this is the appropriate response to having some money taken or points lost. Oh, man, that's not fair. Okay, that's the appropriate response. The appropriate response is not, you fucking bitch, I'll kill you. Okay, that would not be the appropriate response. And that's what you'll get out of somebody who their level of self-control is so poor that what would function as a reasonable, humane, socially standardized punisher, like a speeding ticket, something like that would work quite well on someone who's not super motivated to do bad behavior and who also has reasonable self-control. A contingency like that will work wonderfully. On somebody with like zero self-control and the motivation to engage in the problem behavior is gigantic, it's like shooting bullets at the Hulk. You just make them angrier and more green. It's like, it's the same thing. So that causes confusion. And then people go, see, punishment doesn't work. And I'm like, see, you don't have a fucking punishing stimulus. Okay. And this is kind of what it is. And when I say to the teachers, I go, look, don't get me wrong. It's not that punishment is bad. It's no more bad, just like reinforcement isn't good. Okay, they're not the good. It's not the good witch and the wicked witch. That's not how it works, right? But this is the labels that have been bestowed upon them. They hang Luke Skywalker on reinforcement and they hang Darth Vader on punishment. And as you can see by the movies, it's not that simple. Like punishment is reinforcement's father, and it's complex. And then there's all this like intermingling and shit. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's just poor scholarship. People don't understand what amoral things are. Like, they don't understand that things do not have it's a certain sense of amoral relativism or nihilism, but I mean, it's that thing, like moral, it's a normative claim. It's neither good nor bad, it just is, and we choose to ascribe that value to it based on our whatever subjective values that our social contract dictates.
And that's all ethics is. I mean, ethics, yeah, exactly. I had the list I shot over to you of like ethics being a little bit lower on the list of codified right and wrong. And like at the top is like, well, I mean, if you're religious, even above laws, at the top would be like the 10 Commandments, for example, in Catholicism, right? Biblical stuff, man. So like at the top would be like 10 Commandments. Below that would be like, okay, law. Law is another variant of right and wrong. And just below, and the consequences are usually more formal, like sentencing guidelines and stuff like that. Sure. And usually more severe, incarceration. Yeah. Ethics is like a step down. It doesn't carry the weight of law. If like you did something unethical in a school, you're not going to prison. Okay. You're not going to prison. Okay. Other behavior analysts will poo-poo you. Okay. And maybe you'll have your certificate ripped up and they'll, I don't know, take a sword and like knock off your BCBA epaulets or whatever the hell they do when they, sir, I relieve you of your rank. I don't know exactly what the process looks like.
I don't know either.
I hope to never find out. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's that that kind of business. But
yeah.
So the unethical is the step down. Below that would be unprofessional. So like if someone said you're unprofessional, well, they're not bringing that up to the BACB. That's usually handled like at the job level, you know. Mm-hmm. And then below unprofessional would be inappropriate. So, you know, you could do something, you could say something that's inappropriate, but maybe it's not unprofessional, right? It may not rise to that level. Man, dude, that was kind of inappropriate what you said. That's usually what it sounds like, you know.
Yeah, I live in that zone.
Right. That's like most of what I say. So, and like the last category I had was just ill-advised, which would be it's not. I'm not really saying it's wrong. I'm just thinking in all probability, maybe it's not the best idea. So that's like ill-advised is like almost the softest version of right and wrong there can be. And then you just kind of go up the scale with it. But I think that was kind of your point, Dimitri. It's what I called it was, now science works this way too. Don't get me wrong, but science has data and it's better codified than ethics. It's cleaner. It maybe is a little bit better at getting rid of bias, right? It's not above these things because as scientists, we're human beings and we have experimenter bias, right? They used to call it advocacy styles of research where you're more interested in proving yourself right than actually figuring out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
So that enters into science as well. But all things being equal, ethics is like a lot worse on like all counts. And one of the problems is that science is more or less, I mean, it's not this simple clearly, but science is more or less truth by data. And we get closer to it as science evolves and we have different ways of detecting it. And then we find out, holy shit, there's like dark matter. What's that? It's in between all the other matter.
We literally talked about this in an episode we did about narrative that we haven't released yet. But it's the difference between descriptive and normative claims. They're just different. Okay, one describes the natural world or attempts to through induction. The other one is a normative claim about what we all choose to describe something at and the value we agree to give it, period. That's it. So they're just different things. It's apples and oranges. To compare the two things is a logical absurdity.
Here's the way I talk about it. And this is what makes it confusing. People use the same words for everything. So as an example, there's right and wrong and correct and incorrect. 4 times 4 equals 12. That is incorrect. Putting the cat in the microwave, that's wrong. Okay? It's not incorrect. No, you should bake a cat. Everybody knows this. You put a cat in a convection oven, you never microwave, okay? It's not incorrect to put the cat in the microwave. It is wrong.
I'm always partial to air fryers, but
and that's where you get and I love cats. For the cat lovers out there.
I don't.
They should not be microwaved. But, still, that's kind of the point is that people will say like, well, that's wrong in the sense like it's incorrect. And I'm like, no, what you're really saying is when you say it's wrong, you're really saying I don't like it.
Yep. And
then when people are saying you're unprofessional, what they're really saying is I don't like your fucking purple hair. And I don't like your tattoo, even if it's not offensive and it's just a rose.
You know, one thing that's like totally pissed me off out of the whole conversation is like, it's hard to even have a conversation with a lot of people because, I mean, I get that we're all individuals. We're all different at the end of the day, but there should be some basic fucking core readings or like things that we're taught in this field so we can actually have this sort of conversation. You know what I mean? Like I can't even have an honest discussion oftentimes because we don't have enough of the same history with what our field has done, how they've talked about this, what's been walked out in our science, what's been walked out elsewhere. I don't know how to combat that. But I feel like that's a big thing to tackle if we want to push forward and be taken seriously all the time too.
I got to say though, real quick, one thing about that is that I don't know if I hear you, and I think if you want to be fair and give people the benefit of the doubt, I think that's the fair explanation. But I, honest to God, don't assume that everyone's a good faith actor. I really think that a lot of the time it's an attempt to manipulate and control the way we're responding to behavior, and that even if we had shared those writings or those readings of any sort or whatever, I feel like there's going to be those instances where it's used in a way to dictate rather than participate in like that collaborative thing in terms of case
I think
management.
That's the difference between a skill deficit and a motivation issue. Like,
Sure,
the skill
absolutely.
deficits stop us from moving forward, is my point. The motivation's super interesting. I've been hit with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for people, I think that's the real question is, what is the motivation for you telling me to change my hair? And this is like one of the things, like if you were going to have a discussion with someone who wasn't going to be a complete fucking asshole, then you would say this, okay, let's have a discussion. So you believe that my hair is unprofessional. So let's forget for a moment what you're going to call it. Let's forget for a moment what category to put my hair in. Let's just talk about this. What do you believe in your heart of hearts will be the consequences for our clients because my hair is purple? And listen to what they say, because here's one of the things I've been thinking about. I've been reading.
Did you just suggest to take a functional approach towards ethics?
Oh my God. I didn't want to say it that way because I didn't want people to freak the fuck out.
Sorry.
But one of the things about that is on it, a lot of the things that way we behave, it is rule governed. But here's the thing. The rules that we use to generate our behavior and to decide when to say something or not say something, initially they're stated pretty clearly in our minds, and maybe we even say them out loud to people. But after you've been doing it a long time, like driving a manual transmission, it becomes almost automatic, and you don't really think about your own premises very carefully. You just react. Oh, purple hair person. Oh, they're a freak. Okay, and that's like kind of what you do instantly. You might do that. Or, oh, tattoos. Oh, something wrong with you. Without clearly stating exactly what those expectations are or those guesses. So if you ask the person, what do you think the consequences of my purple hair would be? If they thought about it, maybe they would say something like this. Well, one, people would think we're not a professional organization, and we would lose business to people with normal color hair. Okay, that would be one premise. Here would be another premise. People won't take you seriously because they won't think you're really a professional because your hair's the wrong fucking color. And then they won't listen to what you say, and no kids will get better. But here's the thing. Nobody ever says this to their staff. But if you ask them to come out and say it, sometimes when you say things that you kind of suspect but never really said it out loud and you write it down, you're like, oh, this is kind of fucking preposterous. So, but
completely illogical.
You never see it in front of you. Like we had a new staff member. His name's Benson, and he has a slight accent. And he, I think he's from his parents are from Haiti, and I noticed he had a slight accent. And I just asked him this without thinking. I go like, "Where are you from originally?" And he goes, "Miami." And I'm thinking, I was like shocked. And then I realized I outed myself. Is I was doing sloppy thinking, and the sloppy thinking was this. You have an accent. If you have an accent, it means you didn't grow up here. Now, that was my sloppy thinking on autopilot. However, if somebody had brought the premise to me, hey, Merrill, as a behavior analyst, do you think there's a way that someone could be born in this country yet still have a foreign accent? I would say, what is this, a joke? I could think of 15 different reasons they would have a foreign accent. Yeah, if you brought it to me as a formal premise, I could analyze it, right? But when it's in my own head on autopilot, I don't think critically of anything. And we all do this.
Yeah.
I just happen to catch myself. Most of the time we don't. But it's that same kind of stuff. Like, oh, you have a tattoo? Well, that means blah, blah, blah. But you never really say what that is.
And that actually does come back to what you were saying, Ryan, where I think people default to those rules when they don't actually have good mastery over the general principles and they can't use them flexibly and fluidly. If you haven't mastered the force, you know what I mean? You're just doing what you were taught. So
highly rule governed.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that's where like it's a certain degree, it's a kind of moral dogmatism that puts people in boxes and makes it easier to make decisions, but it doesn't necessarily make it easier to make the most optimal decisions.
It would require judgment. Have you guys ever gotten this in an argument from anybody? Look, dude, it's just plain wrong.
Oh man,
that's what people say. Or the other one is period, the end. People say that stuff because they don't eat. There's one of two things. Maybe there's a third one. You can help me, please. But it's one of two things usually. One, I don't even know the reasons why I don't like it. I just don't like it. It's a visceral reaction. I haven't examined it. Two, I do know exactly why I don't like it. I'm afraid to tell you because I believe it is socially inappropriate to give that as a reason. And so what I do is I label it as unprofessional or unethical. But if I say to you, I don't like it because this happened to my child and that still upsets me today. I could then say, well, I could totally understand why you don't like it. But also, you'd have to understand, since this happened to your own child and you admit it, you'd also have to understand you're already incredibly biased. Okay. And it's not your fault. And it's not your fault. It is not your fault you're biased. I would have been biased too, but you are. And these are the honest conversations. It's not, and as behavior analysts, we're not looking to blame anybody. We're just saying, hey, by the way, this might be going on, and maybe we can talk about it and address it instead of hiding it under some bullshit like professionalism.
How did you get through a doc program?
Slowly. Took 7 years. So I think they finally just gave me my PhD to make room.
Get this guy out of here.
Get him the fuck out of here.
I came into Jim Johnston's office one day after dodging him for weeks because I hadn't got my dissertation done. And he just looked up from his desk at me and said nothing. And I just said, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. and then Jim, without even looking up, goes, well, I figured when you wanted to graduate, you'd show up. So
super cash.
And he was correct. I did show up and graduate. So
that's good.
Yeah. But fun stuff. But did you guys, I did read through all the questions, by the way. At some point, did you want to bring some of those up?
Sure.
Yeah, we can go through them. Go ahead.
I didn't want to name them by name, but I mean, most of them were like pretty good, but like a couple of them, I was like,
to prime folks, we put a video out on the YouTube channel. We got 10 or 12-ish sort of responses. I redacted their original information in their email and stuff like that. So those are just simple names that I made up that's probably based on some sort of bias and I'm going to piss people off of because how I did that. But let's jump into them. Was there any particular that popped out?
Yeah, I'd say there's like, there was one. I liked the first one. It was Jackie. And I think my comments were, wow, judgy much. And it says, after the meeting, I was sent feedback from a veteran BCBA in our area and was told the way I present myself is unprofessional and not a good look for the field. Like, what the fuck is that? First of all, let's see what behavior analysts are wearing this season.
And this was all because of her hair being in a bun and no makeup, reportedly.
Fuck. Not a good look for the field. So
I mean, we do. Here's the thing. Like, is the field?
We wonder why we have diversity issues now.
We get smacked around for being like gross people who kind of like wear jeans and t-shirts and stuff, and like don't present ourselves, quote unquote, in like in business attire. But I don't know how you can do that and work in a situation where you're getting poop flung at you. Like, I don't know if you can have those two. Like, I can't wear a suit and do my job. That would be impossible.
At Johns Hopkins Hospital, okay, at the ER unit, I don't think they go up to the ER surgeon and go, dude, you got blood all over your fucking gown. Completely unprofessional.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go change into your tux.
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to, they wear scrubs and they're comfortable, okay? And that was like, oh, what was the other one? One of the ladies, and by the way, I had this from a teacher one time. We have to wear heels because no one's allowed to wear sneakers. And this teacher worked with a kid who runs. And I was like, okay, I've never attempted it as a man, but I'm guessing that chasing a kid down wearing heels is a little challenging. Yeah. So this is just insane. So it's like, optimally you should have shoes on. But again, these are my sensibilities. And whether or not they are appropriate or help you do your job or truly have a fuck to do with professionalism, I want this done. And I'm putting it under the category of professionalism so no one will give me any shit. And they're using it like both as a sword and a shield at the same time.
It really is. It just shuts down discussion, man. You just cannot. It's because I said, it's your mom's because I said so.
Right. I remember my dad, the first time he introduced me to that logical deduction. Okay. Right. It's just like, Dad, why is this? Because I said so. Let me follow that hypothetical solution.
I know.
From the beginning of the preposition all the way through the consequent.
Well, you see, I found these tablets behind this burning bush, and when I got them out, it said because I said so. So she's gonna have to do what I tell you
now. Right. So what else we got? Let's see. Dylan. That was the one I had the question mark. There was one I just wrote WTF at the top. That was what it is. what's up with the Skinner box? I wasn't really sure what the professional
Yeah, I watched that. That
issue
was pretty
is.
fascinating.
Okay.
I think
I can preface this. This is someone that anonymously comments on what I've been doing on the channel the last year. No clue who it is. And so they kind of prefaced in there like, not questions, but you might see this before the hangouts and the meeting. They submitted 2 different videos, just for context for listeners. And one of them was a YouTube channel that is diving into explaining fellatio, blowjobs, and schedules of reinforcement. Yeah, and then the other one's talking about the Skinner box, and it being used as a bad word. What were your thoughts, Merrill?
Oh, on the like Skinner box being used as a bad word?
Yeah.
I never even heard that was a thing. The only thing I ever heard is that I think Julie Vargas said it, that, Skinner preferred to call it an operant chamber. And that was, and if you're going to call it anything, you'd call it a Burris box because they both begin with B.
because they're alliterative.
Yeah,
Well,
they're alliterative. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
I think it does have a negative connotation in just the general vernacular. Like Skinner box has one of those like control box type thing where people think where people generally associate it with him, like with.
Right, or they meant that is what his daughter grew up in.
Yeah,
so,
Clockwork Orange type level stuff.
Air crib, right?
Yeah. I want one of those so bad.
Yeah, if Skinner had just called it iCrib instead of air crib, they would have caught on like crazy.
I want one.
That's right. I want an iCrib. It's Bluetooth.
And whenever the kid cries, they get a pellet. It's perfect.
It's perfect. But yeah, I never heard that was that much of a thing, but certainly not anything for it.
Yeah, and I think part of this was it was intended to try to influence me to make some sort of video around like, why don't we have behavior analysts talking about these sort of subjects? We're just like kind of stuck so down in like the topics and the niche that we're kind of in, or the populations that we're in.
But it's funny because that video was about video game addiction, and we talked about my video game addiction in that episode. That's coming out. So to you, anonymous guy, we talk about video game addiction. I am a video addiction survivor, recovering. So we'll get into that. I'd be happy to answer questions about that.
Were there others, Merrill? In there?
Yeah. There was let's see. There was one. One was more of a comment than a question. This one had to do with. Like personal aversion. Like the one person said, a few years ago, I colored my hair red, not auburn, but red, like fire truck red, fire engine red. I love that. Nobody said anything, but then I asked to transfer to a new location. I was told what color to change my hair to. So they didn't say, I don't know if she really meant that. They didn't just say, don't make it red, but like, you'd look good as a brunette.
Right.
Change it to a brunette before you go to the next location. They were told what color to change it to. Maybe
we don't have enough blondes at this location. We need to immediately change it to blonde.
Maybe they meant like, okay, it can be a red, but we went to a litigation. What do they call it when you are? What do they call it when you are you're negotiating? Mediation. We went to mediation, and the best we can get is winter dusk, say for Miss Clairol. So that's as red as we're going to let it happen. I don't even understand that. But I mean, the main thing is that there's no opportunity for this person to have a conversation. Like, why can't it to be red? What are you afraid is going to happen? Does it offend your sensibilities, or do you have some data that I am not privy to that says it's proven that people with fire engine red hair, lose more customers than those without? And someone was making a really excellent point that, look, when image has direct bearing, how you appear has direct bearing on the quality of your work or on the customer experience. And somebody brought up that they used to be a Disney character. Okay, when you're a Disney character, you can't have your fucking tattoos showing. Okay, Snow White can't have like a sweet Mario on her forearm or something. Okay, not gonna happen at Disney. Also, if somebody had super bad acne, guess what? You're not being a character there, unless it's in one of those giant Pluto suits or something like that. Okay, because the image is part of what they're hiring you for. Like if they were hiring you to be an actor, right? And then you can't, it's not a question of discrimination. It's not a question of we simply don't like tattoos or whatever, but you're going to be Snow White. Snow White doesn't have tattoos. All right. That's very different from you're a behavior analyst. It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters that you can interact with human beings in a reasonable way, do some good teaching, have some decent people skills, you know, but how you look is not one of the job requirements. You're not a theme character at Disney.
When I was in a management role, which has been about 3.5 or 4 years since I've really been in one of those, but now when I run some conferences and help in that sort of format, like the more diverse we have, the easier it is, like all around for me. Like it's hard for me to understand why I would do that. Like I am a, you know, like single white male that like can only relate to certain people when it comes to guitar, basketball, being a white male, luckily in America, like shit like that. Like that always caused me problems in some ways, like of like I can't relate to other people, or I'm told I can't relate to other people. So it baffles me, man. Like why I enjoy the diversity. It's always been useful for the team.
I'm going to play
and the group.
a little bit devil's advocate here, just a little
Do
bit
it.
for the sake of conversation.
Nice.
I think there's a difference between telling someone that they're unethical or they're unprofessional for the way they look, and not out of the gate setting a particular standard you want to hold people to. So if you have agreed upon, say, dress code or agreed upon appearance, whatever expectation that you've set, and people are violating it, I think that's very different than you arbitrarily doling out who's okay and who's not for the way that they decide to dress, the way they try to
for sure.
change their body or modify themselves in any capacity.
We'd
So
never
those
do
are
that.
different things.
We'd never do that to our clients, right?
Yeah.
Start throwing random shit at
Right.
them.
Because, I
That
mean,
wasn't
as someone
clear.
who does manage people, like, I would have a problem with, like, someone who's responsible for, you know, whatever people to just showing up and looking like a dumpy asshole. Like, if they showed up and like, smelled like a homeless guy, you know what I mean? And it smelled like they just shit themselves, and, you know, they're just, like, dirty clothes and stains on them and stuff. Like, that's like that's not presentable. Now granted, that expectation has been set out of the gate beforehand, so it's not like that's me trying to control their behavior, calling them unprofessional. But I think there are certain semblances in like polite society that you should hold yourself to. Again, that's not to say that if you choose to wear red hair and there's nothing that says in the code of conduct or whatever that you signed to work at that place that says you can't have red hair, you know, that you shouldn't be allowed to have it. And if someone says that to you, you shouldn't be able to tell them to, you know, suck it. But I mean, like, the point is that you should definitely be aware that I think there are certain things that are socially acceptable, certain things that aren't. And it really depends on the agreement that you've gone into out of the gate or before you started working there.
I think that it does. And I mean, somebody made a point that on Facebook that, well, it also depends on regional too, because in places where it is very conservative, like some places in the South, that you see less in general, less tattoos and purple hair, for example. But, the issue is have people had the discussion of, are you certain that the person who has the tattoo is automatically going to offend the conservative person? And we know this can't be the case all the time. It's just someone thinks you're going to offend them because they're conservative and without any data. And this is the thing I have a problem with. The other thing I have a problem with is it's one thing to have an ethical allegation brought against you because your behavior came to someone's attention and they investigated it, yada, yada, yada. It's another thing to say, I want you to do this. You say no. And then because I have blocked access to reinforcement, I then accuse you of being unethical. So it's like unethical retaliation. Mm-hmm. So I don't make the accusation until there's a problem. And
Exactly.
that's some nasty shit right there. Because it's a lot different to say, hey, dude, I heard you took a picture of the kid in the classroom just to show somebody else. This happened to me once. I took a little bit of video of a kid in the classroom, just like 15 seconds, because I wanted to discuss with the BA at the school what the para's doing. Well, they're like, Merril, you can't video the kid. And I was like, oh, shit, right. I go, but I wasn't going to keep her doing anything. I just needed to show it to somebody. And I said, okay, I'll delete it. But that's something where nobody did that as a form of retaliation. They just found out I did it. And they said, well, we need to fix that. And I said, okay, right. Okay, it'll never happen again. But it wasn't something like, it would be different if a year later I write a program, they say you need to change it. Well, if you don't change it, remember that time you recorded that video? I'm going to report you for an ethical violation. That's practically blackmail. So, that's, no, really. So one of the issues is, did the ethical allegation come about was the antecedent, I did something just now you didn't like, or I refused to do something you asked for.
Yeah, it's just a form of counter control, man. It comes back to that issue of control and people wanting to influence and control the behavior of the person in front of you. Shit's dirty. It's much more prevalent in this field than I had originally realized, young and naive.
Here's one of the things. These things are not codified. So like professionalism, here's the example I use. The word presidential. When Donald Trump was running for president, okay, and people used the word a lot, and they used the phrase unpresidential. Now, in Trump's defense, which are few words that I thought I'd never utter, okay, but in Trump's defense, there is no presidential. It doesn't exist. You can't go to the Library of Congress and look up the task list of presidential behaviors because it isn't fucking there, okay? There isn't one. It's everybody has their own avatar in their mind of who a president looks like and how the president stands and how he or she walks and addresses people and greets people and kisses children. And this is what a president is. But that's from your experiences and what the media tells you a president should be. It doesn't say presidents never curse. It doesn't say that. Even Obama cursed one time when the mic was on, okay? You know he curses. All right, he just acted like he never did.
Have you ever heard of heard any of the tapes of LBJ?
No.
Oh, he's pretty
bad.
Raunchy.
Pretty
Yeah,
colorful guy.
Probably. And so the thing is, but the whole point is,
Again, I'm totally not a Trump supporter. PS.
Yeah, they're trying to
listen to that. I'm not that guy.
No,
Yeah.
nobody is actually. But anyway, it's just one of those things that happen. No, but it's the same thing. So like presidential, you say, well, that's not very presidential. And that's really, I want you to stop that. I want you to stop that because it's not like, well, just go look up the list of presidential behaviors and do that. Well, you can't because it's not there. And the same is true of professionalism. They can say on their company policies, whatever, but nowhere does it say in the BOC guidelines, if you come in and like you're a little disheveled, that's an ethical violation, or that's not professional behavior. Here's how we define professional behavior. If you do any of these things, that's not professional behavior. And then if you do enough of them, we're going to give you the label unprofessional, and you got to stick that onto the end of BCBA.
I mean, just in general, though, too, just from a
you get that also cut off with your sword if you
do. That goes, your epaulets go, and then they take the A off your
professional, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then they brand you with a P.
One thing that I find interesting is that we have some of the most strict ethical guidelines of helping people. Like if you compare our ethical guidelines, the BACB code of ethics, to like counselors or educators or psychologists,
it's more rigorous, much more.
Oh, crazy more, like ridiculous.
What do you think about
educators? Don't even not to shit on teachers here, but I mean, like for real, like teachers barely have an ethical code. Like, but I mean, like counselors, for example, the gift giving thing, that's something that I just saw on you post that I said, I can't wait to talk about that because that's been a bone of, dude, that don't take the water thing has been a problem for me forever. Like it makes me so
it's don't drink the water.
Whatever. Don't
traveling south of the border.
You're dying of thirst, but just stare at it because you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert. You were gifted this water. You're going to die, but you should die instead of drinking it because it's a gift. A
lot of the field's professional guidelines or ethical guidelines are all set around professional, whatever. They're not fucking guidelines, but are topographical. Like we don't actually dive into, is this functionally altering, which is what the intent is of those sort of things.
Yeah, and they're Western, dude. I mean, like if you're working with Chinese people, for example, like if you have Chinese clients and they give you a gift, it is disrespectful not to accept.
Oh, yeah. And
so like,
which is a functional outcome, right?
That damages the therapeutic relationship. So why would I not take this small, nominal, inconsequential thing that will establish rapport and make it easier for me to get in there than it would be to just completely insult them, make it impossible to do my job? It's a preposterous statement. It's culturally incompetent, to put it another way.
And it's what it is. It's pitting one ethical premise against another. It's the old Anne Frank thing. So, okay, lying is bad, but when the Nazis come knocking for Anne Frank, you tell them she's not home. Okay, that's the classic one. Okay, oh, you shouldn't lie. Yeah, but it's kind of Nazis and it's Anne Frank.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. We won't report you this time, but
Yeah, I
no
just
more
find
lies.
what I don't like is moral absolutism. Like
Yeah, I
I
don't
find it
either.
upset. Like
So
it's
like,
just ridiculous.
yeah, it's what's going to be like less offensive. Like I heard that same thing about the water too, and I was just like, okay, that's ridiculous. You know, it's just like where do you draw the line? Here's the thing. So if somebody says, well, a bottle of water, that's a gift, and my thing is, if there's not a fucking bow on it and it's not under the tree on Christmas morning, it's not a fucking present.
Yeah.
Okay, like nobody gets a bottle of water for their retirement party. You know, Dimitri, you've been here for 50 years. You've been a great employee. We got you a little bottle of Aquafina. It has your initials on it in magic marker. We hope you always remember us when you look at it in your refrigerator.
I'll cherish it forever. Thank you.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, well, you know, then if they open the water out of the bottle and pour it into a glass, is it now not a gift? Can I drink it now? Can I take it out of the faucet? Can I flush their fucking toilet? Because that costs money because they have a water bill. So if you flush their toilet, it uses water. That doesn't come out of nowhere. And when you go in their home, it raises the BTUs in the home, which means their AC has to work harder. Shouldn't you reimburse them for all that extra electricity?
That's 4 cents of energy that they're never going to get back. You
stole that shit from them. So
no, the counselor guidelines are $20. So it's like if it's less than $20, and it would hurt the therapeutic relationship if you would not accept it. Those are the paired guidelines.
I think
maybe it's a little bit more now, but like when I read it was $20. I thought.
I think what there's not a discussion of when they come up with the ethical guidelines is what's the motivation behind these. And now, I don't think this is true for all, but ostensibly it has to do with, I always thought, and you guys tell me, you know, what your thought is on it. Ostensibly, I thought it had to do with potential for harm. Okay. Now, a lot of it has to do with dishonesty in general and things that are generally frowned upon by society. But mostly we're talking about what's the potential for harm. So like, okay, it's not a good idea to sleep with the parent of the person that you're providing services to. Oh, I'm sorry. Was this wrong? Okay, that's pretty well agreed upon. And the thing is,
you're not supposed to do that?
No, what? News to me. You should put a banner on the BACB website about that.
No one actually ever said that before. I never heard that.
But you know, on that kind of thing, here's the idea that from a lot of these, it comes from other disciplines, that in other areas, people did this, they had affairs with their clients or with the families of the clients, and these are the consequences that happened. These are all the bad things that happened. And we are reasonably certain that if we did the same thing, these bad things would happen. And so that's why we're saying it's unethical, because of harm that has been demonstrated to come. However, I know a lot of these ethical guidelines, they are not based on data demonstrating harm to people.
That's the threshold. The threshold should, that's what we were talking about before. It's like, what is ethics? When you ask the question, what are ethics, or what is it to act ethically? You're asking, how ought one to live? So when you're asking that question, you're asking questions about the nature of goodness itself.
You're asking about people's reinforcers and aversives. That's
exactly.
What it all comes down
exactly
to.
What you're saying.
Here's what happens. Okay, we're a bunch of dudes sitting around. We don't have a society yet. And I happen to see you, and I was like, dude, you know, somebody just killed my whole fucking family. And you're like, dude, somebody just killed my whole family. And I'm like, God damn it. We need to live in a place where nobody kills our fucking families. And it's like, dude, I am so with you on that. I so hate having my family killed. And they're like, let's all
murder's the worst.
Murder sucks ass. So why don't we all live in the same place? And we're going to be like totally all about the not murdering people. Okay. That's what we're going to do. And you're like, dude, that is so awesome. Okay. That's how all this starts. Like, and then there's like another city somewhere nearby. And they're like, no, dude, we're totally all about the killing. We do a full purge like once a week. All right, just so everybody keeps their sanity. Okay.
Do you think it has to do, like, outlining such strict controls or strict guidelines has to do more with teaching to the middle than expecting the development of good clinical judgment skills?
I think that what we are, I think you hit the nail on the head, dude. That I think that what happens in our field is we've tried to, as behavior analysts, because, you know, we put the anal in analysis. As behavior analysts, we tried to figure everything out, do a task list and a task analysis. And the thing is, you miss like the big picture stuff sometimes when you do that. It's unavoidable. Not that the task list is a bad thing or that things aren't important, but this notion that if we just gave people enough rules, they'd all do the right thing. It's like, no, if you give people enough rules, they'll never fucking figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
If you give them so many, they'll be completely obsessed with following rules, and they will miss all the glory that is the natural contingencies out in front of them. And I was saying to somebody else the other day on Matt's podcast, my advice to new analysts is, look, I spend most of my career now outside the box. I've been in the box. I roamed around it for many years. I'm outside it now. That's where I'm comfortable. But when I first learned, I was in the box, man. I used procedures until I understood how they worked and just tried to get the basics right. But what you start to learn when you get a good understanding of it is you realize, holy shit, people completely misunderstand reinforcement, even BCBAs. Because they're given rules by other people. It's oversimplified. They've taken this glorious, wonderful, dynamic interaction between an organism and its environment, and they try to boil it down to a few fucking words. You can't do that. You can't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a tiny, tiny little picture of what reinforcement is. The definition that we have, it's a tiny little picture of reinforcement. That's all it is, a little snippet. It's the difference between beef and beef broth.
I think that stuff's going to come back to bite us in the ass. Like, people will start to, funding streams specifically, will start to put more and more and more pressure on the cultural level of our ABA or whatever it is that we do. You can fraction that into the different camps or whatnot, being asked to produce the results and produce the things that they need to. I'm skeptical, man, since it's all that teaching to the middle.
And the thing is, what it does is, here's the other problem with it. You want people to gain judgment. There's only one way to gain judgment I know of, and that is fucking up. Okay?
Failure, man. Failure. Absolutely.
Niels Bohr.
Give people the opportunity to fail.
Yeah, the physicist Niels Bohr said he defined an expert as someone in an area of study who made every mistake that you could possibly make. That's and of course, hopefully didn't repeat the same mistakes, because if you keep doing that, you're not an expert. You're just an experienced dumbass. So that's good to know there too. So it's important to fix the mistakes. So, basically, if you've been around long enough to make all the mistakes, then you know what they are. You start to gain judgment, right?
Well, it's the fallacy of antecedent manipulations actually changing behavior.
Correct. Yeah. And the thing is that it's you can't throw people in the deep end, because then what you do is your judgment's so poor, everything goes catastrophically. What you do is you have to be given a little bit of room to make some error, but not so much room that you can hang yourself. Okay. Yeah. So you give people an opportunity to screw something up and learn from it, so that they can, start to gain better judgment, instead of, no, we're afraid you'll make bad judgment, so we're just going to give you a shit ton of rules forever. Hey, man, it's good to have a bunch of rules at first, but then people are going to have to start to bend them a little bit, like in the Matrix, right? You can't break the rules, but you can start to bend them, right? And it's the same kind of thing, but you really, if you do it before you really understand things at a fairly thorough level, then you start kind of going like off the deep end, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. And that's the stuff that, like a good example, I was talking with someone about a couple days ago, was there's a big spur of like these Instagram accounts of people that are RBTs or BCBAs or future BCBAs. It's listed all over the fucking place in there, that want to go out and champion the science without a good understanding of what's going on. And I think that's where, like, if you can figure out the social side, you could be this amazing person that's championing a science, like, totally incorrectly. And while we're bitching about, in some ways, little tiny issues in our field, there's, I think, going to be much bigger ones that people aren't paying attention to.
Case in point, just our PR, our social interface. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. It's, here's the problem with what we do. One big problem. We have the technology side that is desperately needed. I mean, the demand is incredible. In autism alone, right? Yeah. The demand is incredible. People on all kinds of wait lists everywhere. Mm-hmm. Not enough behavior analysts. And so one thing is, it needs to be made fairly simple. But the problem with that is the more simple you make it, the less powerful it becomes.
Yep.
There's some kind of a balance between like how powerful the technology is and how simple it is. If it gets too simple, it becomes almost worthless, and you misunderstand it.
There's this I worked with a psychiatrist one time who we were talking about side effects, and he was like, there are some other options I could put this kid on but less side effects means less potent, which means less effective. And that's the thing. Like when we talk about eliminating things like extinction or eliminating the punishment just on spec, not, in terms of like following a good progression of least to most or whatever appropriate thing, or just in general limiting the way that we view contingencies and sticking to these rules, these grab bag behavior analysis, I call it, to throw shit against the wall and hope something sticks approach versus actual contingency management.
Well, yeah. And what happens is, I think what's happened a lot is because of, I've seen people several times where I gave them recommendations, and these are pretty good behavior analysts, younger, but good, right? Solid. And they said, Merrill, that's a really great recommendation that you came up with, but I haven't seen any journal articles on what you just said. And I said, you won't, because this is just kind of my own shit that I do, but it's not based on astrology. It's based on fundamental principles of behavior. Yeah. I'm just recognizing a functional relation in the environment, and I'm just giving that functional relation a name. That's all I'm doing. I didn't create a new phenomenon. And I say that whenever I give a talk. So like I talk about, just an example, confrontation seeking behavior. It's not a behavior. It's not its own class. It's just something I call it. All it means is punching someone in the face is momentarily a very powerful reinforcer, and I will work my ass off to gain access to punching you in the face. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm calm again, I don't really want to punch you in the face anymore.
If anyone wants to see an article on that, they can look up Jack Michael and look up signs of damage.
Yeah, there you go. And it's the same thing.
There you go.
And so, but the point is that has anybody done an actual study on it or research or written a behavior plan? No. But somebody can start doing research. And this is another problem, is that people are like, well, I can't do it if it hasn't been in a journal. Nothing says that. Okay. Yeah. There's no journal article that compared an FR65 to an FR67. Okay. But it doesn't mean you can't do it.
It's a ridiculous fallacy.
And the thing is, if that's the way it worked in medicine, there would be zero breakthroughs, my friends.
Yeah,
zero breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Because what happened? Viagra. You think Viagra, they got permission to use that as a boner pill? Do you think people at Pfizer were sitting around the table saying, gentlemen, we have to come up with a boner pill or we're going to hemorrhage money? Okay. They didn't. They invented a heart medication that had the most awesome side effect ever, and then they rebranded it as Viagra. Okay, that's it's called serendipity.
This thing cures heart attacks and gives you a boner.
The same way extinction was discovered reportedly by Skinner in the lab too.
Right, because he was unable to get an erection, and then that wasn't it. That's a different story.
I think it was something about the food pellet, not working. But
yes, it was.
Similar, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the machine broke and he went out drinking or something.
That is great.
And then
and that's that flexibility thing. I don't know. That's what I get tagged with a lot.
As far as like being flexible on ways
just being so rule governed in relation to the grab bag idea of using like the way that you construct intervention. Like you were talking about DROs, I prefer not to use DROs too. I don't like them. They're just token economy in general. Like just the way that they're structured. Like they're too mechanistic and they're kind of I don't know. There's just easier, simpler ways of doing it where you can interact with someone in a natural way. They don't know what Jedi mind trick you're using, and you're getting better effect.
Here's what I really don't like is that they're trying to do I call it tit for tat. So like in psychiatry, tit for tat psychiatry is you have 5 diagnoses and you're on 5 different meds. And we're giving you the Ritalin for the ADHD, and we're giving you the Prozac because you have anxiety and or depression. And we're giving you the Depakote because you also show a little bit of bipolar. And like any good psychiatrist will tell you, this is bullshit. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. Okay. The medicines don't know exactly where to go for the different disorders. Okay. Like I'm here for the bipolar. I go to this part of the brain. It doesn't work like that. And so this kind of crazy notion that like people ask, well, when I wrote my book on working in education settings, doing behavior analysis there, I said, this isn't going to be a book on Merrill. What's a good procedure for pica? I said, that's not what this is.
Exactly.
What this is this kid with pica, show me all the ways he's different from the other kids who don't have pica. Let's talk about all the ways he's different. And let's see which one of those ways is going to impact this problem. And that'll give us an idea of the areas we need to look at, right? They're so concerned. The other thing is I said, try not to be so concerned. And again, this has to do with compartmentalizing shit. As a behavior analyst, so many of them go into settings and it's like, I need to figure out the function of this immediately. No, you don't. you need to figure out what the fuck's going on first. Just watch what's happening. You don't need to label anything. You don't need to say it's attention. You don't need to say it's escape. Yeah, just observe and write down what happened. He hit his head and the lady furrowed her brow and shook her finger. Okay, great. There's no interpretation there. Like you said, it's just declarative. It's factual. It's not interpretive.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's not informative. It's formed as a data set.
Yeah. Yeah. What were the two words you used, Dimitri? Informative or normative?
Affirmative. Oh, descriptive and normative.
Descriptive and normative, right. So it's not normative, it's just descriptive. Just be descriptive. Don't try. What they try to do is they try to be normative immediately and go, oh, looks like attention. Well, have you even been watching long enough to see exactly what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, well, why do we need to label it that quick? Why can't you just say, here's what it looks like. Talk about it. I encourage people like talk about it in regular English. Because if you can't describe what's happening in regular English, why is it going to be enhanced talking about it behaviorally necessarily?
Dude, it's Albert Einstein, man. If you can't explain something simply, then you don't understand it. It's really that simple.
I think that's a lot of it. But what else, guys? Was there anything else on like professional or ethical? I think we turned everything upside down. Nothing.
I feel like we started. We just said a hi, and you're like the guy who flips the table and like, I'm not playing this game anymore.
But I think now that we've established that there is no good and evil,
let's do some evil shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Never mind. Well, did you guys have anything else or questions or comments? I talked a lot.
Oh no, it's all good. That's what we do. We just sit here and we chat, and I mean, you just really went for it out of the gate, so you kind of took us by surprise a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but it's a good thing.
I respect it and I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Once I get going, I just keep your arms and legs clear.
Well, let me ask you. Actually, I want to ask you something kind of not mega personal, but just out of curiosity. You've kind of blown up on my social media lately. Like, what's inspired you to get out there and start talking?
I think what happened was Kristen Lancaster invited me to the confessions group. And usually, like, I just do Facebook, really. I don't do Twitter or anything like that. Normally I just post, whatever funny shit I come up with on Facebook, but not that much about behavior analysis. But here, I mean, there was a lot of good conversation. People were starting a lot of interesting topics, and the people were fun and super non-judgy. Like whatever judgy is, they all took the antidote apparently. Yeah. So it's a really great group where you can be comfortable saying, hey, I think this is a thing. What do you guys think? And no one fucking beats you up over it. So it's a lot more fun. So I think because of that group and the dynamics of that group is why I've been posting a lot more, because there's a lot of the rate of reinforcement for me is like unbelievable in that group.
Oh yeah. You're like the top guy right now. Poster.
Yeah. Something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit the group while I'm on top.
Oh, is that it?
Nice. See, that's a mistake Seinfeld made. So he should have stopped that show 5 years early, and then there would have been a demand to bring him back. But no.
What do you think about that? Do you think that this whole talk leads into the idea of political correctness and like how that can control us in our field in general or just in society?
I think it does. And here's the thing: it's how do you play someone else's game without losing it? Yeah. So it's I have to do that when. Like I'm helping a buddy of mine up in Maryland with some language for a legislative bill against restraint that comes up all the time, like to get rid of restraint, prone, supine, get rid of seclusion in schools. And I'm like, here's an idea. Let's just have well-behaved children in schools and you won't need any of them. Yeah. But, everybody wants to accept everyone, which I'm like, that's wonderful. However, you have to, if you're going to take on the responsibility of taking every child with every behavior problem, which is a great responsibility, then you must give your staff the tools they need to meet that responsibility.
They don't deserve to be punching bags.
No, and what happens
is meat bags that throw at that's bullshit.
People want to have their cake and eat it too. So I want everyone in school, but I don't want any of you motherfuckers touching them. So, and it's just
you need to get punched in the face and smile. Like,
yes.
Or have
that's the professional
a diaper
thing
full
to
of poop. A diaper full of poop flung directly in your eyes.
That's a professional thing to do. Just take
scratched on the cheek with menstrual fluids. Like I'm just like, I'm just spitballing here. Not that these are my real experiences,
yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the preposterousness of it is so that offends me. Is that it's just not real. It's not in contact with reality. It's not taking into consideration the actual need, and it's also not taking into consideration the actual behavior change. Because if you want to change if there's intensive behavior happening, you have to. Things require equal and opposing forces, right? Like, I mean, it's the laws of thermodynamics. Like,
Absolutely, man.
It's physics, bro. Like,
absolutely. I actually quoted entropy in my book because
did you really? That's
yes,
awesome.
I did, because all shit falls apart. They go like, well, reinforcement's terrible because you have to keep using it, and if you don't keep using it, the behavior falls apart. Yeah, and if you don't fucking keep eating, you die. What the eating sucks, man. You have to keep eating every fucking day. I have
makes
to
you poop every 10 hours. It's
what the heck? We need to get rid of this whole eating thing. So yeah, everything is temporary. Okay. I mean, even permanent is a relativistic term.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you say to people who are afraid to speak out? Because I got to say that, this is my third foray into trying to do a podcast. And I think the only reason that I've kind of stepped out of my comfort zone with it is because Ryan's been a good partner and encouraging me to not be afraid. But what do you say to a lot of people who are afraid to speak out and speak their mind? Because that was also in one of our questions where someone's like,
okay,
don't use my name. I'm really afraid. Like,
first of all, here's what they do. Stop spending your money on Netflix, save it up so that in a few years, you'll have a good set of fuck you money. Okay. So that when you have to change jobs or move, you can tell people, fuck you, I'm keeping my hair purple. And then you can go. Somehow being financially secure gives you a little bit of an extra boost.
Yeah.
But that's no guarantee either. Somebody could always sue you. But no, really what I would say is for people that are afraid to is I think first, talk to some people about what your concerns are, who you feel are not going to shoot you down, which is why we're having a lot of those discussions in that group, right?
Yeah.
So you have the discussion with someone who's not going to jump all over you. So just as a quick example, I'm doing a talk on racism. So what did I do? I started talking with some people who were of other races who I already knew, and they know me. They know that my motive is to help, right? And I know if I make some missteps while I'm interviewing them or asking them questions about things that I don't understand as a member of the majority race, the dominant race, I know that they'll be patient with me, and I feel safe to ask them questions. And they know I'm not trying to attack them, and I know they're not going to jump all over me. And when you can have a conversation like that, people can actually learn shit, which is, that's why this is so important. And so I think that I don't blame the people who are afraid to be that, because some people can be, and I know I've done it myself too, and I feel bad about it. People can be pretty fucking harsh about these things. And having known it's been done to me, I've done it to someone else. And I'll just say this, I don't think it's good. And if I find it in myself or someone points it out to me, I don't get pissed off at them. I thank them and I apologize, because it's so counterproductive.
Yeah. I mean, it shuts down discussion, man. It shuts down conversation, and
makes
it impossible to have discourse.
Right. I mean, this is why teens go, whatever. And the reason they're doing that is you're saying, just shut up, because you're not going to let me talk. You're not going to have a real discussion with me. You're just going to tell me shit. And kind of that's what whatever means when they do that. It's like, this is going nowhere. I don't think you're even really listening to me, and I just want you to stop talking. You win. It's kind of, one of those things. So, I think that's so whatever.
Yeah, call it whatever.
But I think these are important things. I'm glad you guys are doing this, because people don't, I think they don't feel safe to say these things. And then some people take it upon themselves to speak for the entire fucking field. Like the person who gave the criticism, like, I don't think that's a good look for the field. Yeah. Who put you in charge of field PR? Yeah. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
those statements are so hilarious.
It's 2019 and behavior analysis has a whole new exciting look. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I think my advice to anybody who feels like they get that kind of criticism, or just in general, I would just say to them is just be better skilled. And actually, you gave a talk. You gave it at APBA, but you also gave it at OABA, and you probably given it a couple times. But in your talk, you say, it's about being highly skilled. And my idea, and that really changed my perspective on how I reacted to those things, those situations. Because like I was saying, I I wasn't just joking. Like, I feel like, and this is not me, but I'm just saying, I have been accused of a lot of these things, and I've been put in these control type situations where I just get random objections, mostly because I'm sharp tongued and sharp witted. So like, typically I have a comeback in my back pocket pretty immediately, so I can shoot people down pretty fast. And I like to use logic as a weapon too. So like,
me too.
So I mean, that makes me very difficult to communicate with, especially when I think that I'm right. So I understand that. I'm recognizing my flaws here.
It's a tough thing.
It is tough. But I think the way that you win those situations is that Caesar's wife must be above reproach. You know what I mean? Like, if you have your
I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that phrase.
If you have your shit together to the point where you understand what you're talking about, and you've acquired the skills necessary, and you've developed your trade set, you've become an actual, I don't want to say artist because that's kind of woo woo, but I mean, I know what you mean. With a high degree of technique. You know, and you can dig deep there and do that, then you can combat it in such a way that you walk away confident that despite the way your interaction or engagement went, they can't come back at you. Like, it's bullshit. You know, wave away the bullshit. Be better informed, basically. Read more, be better, you know? And that's the only way I've been able to combat it.
Or as Melania likes to say, be best. So why settle for better when you can be best?
I agree. I just want to be best.
I've personally taken a little bit of an in-between y'all, like learn more and bring those skills into some sort of controlled environment and then slowly step that up. Like, it was, start in the classroom, start then talking about these sort of things in a bar, talk about this thing that you don't necessarily understand, but you're trying to figure out, you know what I mean? Bring it into the research lab, bring it into your class, bring it into a public discussion somewhere, or, just like kind of in a sense, kind of increasing the amount of peer review and publicity that you're kind of discussing your topic at. And that's where you start to, like, you'll mess up, but that's where, like, you can really refine these sort of skill sets.
Yeah, and I think that helps. And that's what I started doing was usually when I write my stuff, I just kind of do it myself. Like, I'm in my own head in Merrill world, and I just, boom, I'm just going to spit it out and see if it sticks. But, like, for the talk on racism, I was like, this is too important, and there's too many ways to fuck it up. So I started giving it to other people and saying, am I missing like any large gaps, or the things that don't make sense, can be taken the wrong way? And people would start to point things out here or there. And I was like, oh yeah, that's useful. And so I think the other thing, which is hard for the seasoned behavior analysts, is being good enough. I mean, being, I guess, humble enough to listen to what somebody else is saying. Cause even if they're new, and even if maybe they've got the point wrong, there might be something good in there. There almost always is.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. That you could take from that. If you just like put your pride aside for a second, maybe you come out a little bit better. And my whole thing is, this is the best way I know how to do it. If you can show me a way to do it that, at least by my standard, is better, I'm on board. Yeah. I will be your student. But I need to be, like, if you're going to tell me that rubbing peanut butter on his arms will stop the headbanging, I will buy the first case of Jif. Okay. But you've got to have some oomph behind your claim.
You got to convince them. That's the thing. Like, you got to be able to sell it.
Yeah. Like, sell me a sensory integration. Show me what you got. Show me. No, I will
never believe that one.
No, I met a dude in Saudi Arabia who was actually very smart. And whenever I asked him critical questions like you might, he actually had really good answers. And when I saw what he was doing, it was real stuff, and it looked like it had a real effect, but we would just call it different stuff. A lot of it was habituation based.
Oh,
so if the kid had what they call gravitational insecurity, which means either you have, it sounds like something that astronauts get.
Float away?
Yeah. It happens.
Gravity, I'm a little 9.7 meters per second over here.
That's what it's called. That's what happened to George Clooney when he got outside the spaceship. You got your gravitational insecurity, right? And basically it means you're afraid you're going to fall the fuck over. That's what it means. Okay. So gravitational insecurity.
He's imbalanced. Okay.
Yeah, right. So, but what they would do is they would hold them and like rock them back and forth. And at first the kid would freak out. And I said, well, what happened after a while? He goes, after a while, he stopped freaking out. I'm like, fucking brilliant. But the kid can handle it now. So, science, bitch. So yeah, that was that. Science, bitches. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Um,
That Richard Dawkins move right there.
right. So, what else? Anything else on here on ethics? No, I think we laid waste to most things.
Yeah, I think you fucking blazed through.
Right. How long do you usually go on these? Like 2 full hours?
Oh yeah, we go for a while.
Well, yeah, it's
Hour 45, typically hour and a half.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is
we
just
just
my
talk.
this is just my outline. So now we can,
yeah.
now we can get into the formal.
Roll the
process.
sleeves up. Yeah,
Dude, we have no. That's the thing. We just talk. Like we don't have any
I think that's great.
formal stuff. We're just.
Although,
it's just about figuring it out, man.
dude, this needs to go live though. This needs
Yeah.
to go live,
I
and the
will
three
get-
of us on it, and we take live callers, and we just fucking blow it up.
Do you
That would be
want to do a follow up in like a month?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do it.
yeah,
We'll.
sure.
I've got the capacity to do a live follow up. Yeah, we haven't. Fuck it. Let's announce it. Yeah, we're going live.
Dude, I would love that. I've been wanting to do this. Dude, live is so dangerous. I can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be about a month in our time, but to everyone listening to this, it's probably
But
like a fucking week. So you better
But
check out.
for people in Alpha Centauri, it will, fuck is that? In your,
Dude,
in your
the only reason that works is because we're all fucking nerds. That's the only reason after like everyone be like, what does that mean? It's like, well, if you don't love comic book guy, you don't understand.
well, you know what I found out? Although the sun is like 8 light minutes away from the Earth, that the moon is only like 1.5 light seconds. So
I
that
know
should be going fast,
Yeah.
back and
Good.
forth. Just
Fantastic.
light second done. All right. Well, gentlemen, thanks. That was cool. Yeah, but a live one would be fun. We could just
Thank you.
take
Yeah.
questions and
This
blow
is
shit up.
fantastic.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. That was a lot of fun, and I thought also very interesting. I really liked your guys' comments too. So thanks a lot.
Oh,
Cool.
thanks. man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
All
it.
right,
man.
take care, guys.
Sweet, man.
Later, bud.
man.
Bye.
All right, please, wherever you found this, make sure that you go in, comment, tell us how you liked it. Make sure you answer the questions that we left there, and tell a friend. Please tag, share. It is the way that we can start to break through the barriers and share what behavior analysis has to offer and have these more meaningful conversations in a public sphere. Remember, also, you can go to anchor.fm/the controversial exchange and call in and leave your thoughts there as well, again, privately, where we will be choosing some of our favorites to air on the Anchor app. Our next episode is on self-management and narrative. Finding your story, communicating your story, what role it has in behavior analysis, dissemination. I think you're gonna like it. It's just Dimitri and I riffing. Now I have a quick fun fact for you. That is, did you know that 1 in 1,300 people, that's right, in 2018, 1 in 1,300 people that actually tuned into the content chose to support or help out. So I mentioned Patreon before this. Patreon.com/the Daily BA is a values-based system that I set up to where if you're enjoying this, you can go in, you can support for as little as $1 a month, and you get some sort of exchange as well. So some people receive this in a video series where you could watch online, see us talking back and forth. Other cool things include tiers like the Daily BA, the closed Facebook group where I share other ideas, resources, things like that. Occasionally I get courses, giveaways to hand out to people. We get discount codes that I share with you. I make that super easy to where you can snag some cheaper rates to big events in behavior analysis. And I've paired up with an amazing artist named Lester who makes these just great, phenomenal, really dope posters of legends in our field that we put out there as well. And you can snag some of those depending on your tier. And occasionally I bring on sponsors through this. I make sure that I communicate that with you. And note sponsors, it's only if we truly align on our value system. So that's our show. There are currently over 94 people in the Daily BA Patreon closed group that's accessing these sort of things. I'd love for you to join, so really consider going and checking it out. As a gift for signing up, you get access to all the streams from last year of what we actually produce behind the scenes. You can catch Dimitri and I on Twitter at The Controversial X, that's Controversial EX, or on Instagram at The Controversial Exchange. We will be manning these. We will be answering questions and replying and sharing. So that's how you can reach us in between episodes, in addition to Anchor. And to thank you so much to our listeners. You are the reason that we get to do this. The people on Patreon help us support and make it financially possible. But everybody following, liking, and sharing, you all are helping in this grand vision. So thank you. And I have one last thing that I need to read to you, just so that we're all kosher and we're on the same page. And that is, the views expressed during the Controversial Exchange podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. Assumptions made in the analysis are not reflective of the position of any other entity other than the authors, and since we are critically thinking human beings, these views are always subject to change, revision, and rethinking at any time. Please do not hold us to them in perpetuity. This podcast series is to educate and inform, provide discussion, and does not constitute professional advice. That's your controversial exchange.